Welcome back to the show today. We have a special guest, Chris Salerno. He's going to discuss how he led the number one sales team in the Carolinas and then transitioned into multifamily investing. Welcome, Chris. Thank you for coming on today.
Joe, thank you so much for having me. Super excited to add value to all your listeners and viewers.
Can you, for all the viewers, can you give us background about yourself?
Yeah. So I started out in the residential industry, selling residential real estate. Way before that, I've always had a passion and an entrepreneur mindset. I started work when I was 12 years old. I remember my parents driving me up to a local restaurant, and I would do the dishes, and they would pay me every night cash. And I did that when I was 12, all the way up about 13, 14. I just had jobs ever since then. And when I was around 18, I had a entrepreneurial mindset of creating businesses. I'd create or the cafeteria in our school was just terrible food, so I'd make food and then I would sell it at a markup and make a profit off of it. So I've always done something and created a little business. And so right outside of college, I got into multifamily residential real estate, selling residential real estate, and very quickly gained a success in that industry, which I merged my small team that I had with the large number one team in the Carolinas. And with me being in there and so mindset driven and hungry to grow a huge company, I really fell into their operational role. I would go into the CEO's desk and I'd say, well, what are the P&Ls? And for some people who may not know what that means, profit and loss statements. Yep. I'm like, well, what are the P&Ls? What are we profiting? What are we spending? I got into it, and he really didn't open the books, but he opened the books because he saw I was so hungry and driven to do it. And I saw some things and I asked him, well, why are we spending money here? Or, why are we doing this? Or why isn't this agent doing this? Or can we have the agents go into detail on how they found the leads? Now that would tell us if we know where the leads are coming from, where we know where we can spend more money, or where we know we can cut back on our spending if we're not getting enough leads. And so I just had a passion for it. Didn't get paid extra or anything like that. I just had a passion for it. I have a passion for studying large businesses on why they're successful, why they failed, and I enjoy it. So after that, I started leading the whole team. I started training the sales team to sell better. And from that, I felt like I hit a ceiling. I felt like there was nowhere else for me to go. I felt that when you play the game Monopoly, you don't broker real estate. So I said, well, what am I doing? So I then started studying multifamily. I listened to shows like yours. I read books. I went on YouTube, which is free. Yeah. And I started learning all about multifamily, and I went to a local meetup. And so I'm a suit guy. So I walk into this meetup with a three-piece suit on, and I look around and I see everybody in shorts and a t-shirt. And I'm like, I'm here for the multifamily networking event. And I'm thinking I'm walking into like a Blackstone board meeting. And they're like, you're here. And I'm like, no. Like, I'm here for the multifamily event. They're like, no, this is it. And I'm like, all right. And I always recommend, if you're going to a conference or if you're going to a meetup, go alone. Don't take anyone. And the reason why is because 99% chance if you take someone, you're going to just end up talking to that person you took because you know them. But if you go alone, you're going to be willing to talk to someone else. You're not going to stand there awkwardly because you look awkward. So you're going to have to go out and talk to people. So that's what I did. I had a handful of business cards, and I said, I'm going to talk to everybody. I hand them all out, let them know, I'm a real estate agent, but I'm going to be in the multifamily industry. And at the very end, someone was speaking, the host was, and I went up and I shook his hand. I said, thank you for, hosting this great event. From my experience of coaching, you have to have a coach and a mentor. And I was already seeking a coach and a mentor because I knew to gain the level of success that I want to take the company to is that I need a coach and a mentor to help guide me down that path. Not walk me and not really do everything for me, but just help guide me so I don't make mistakes where I can grow a lot quicker. So that's where it ended up. I ended up hiring a really great coach. His name's Joe Fairless, well known in the industry. Yeah. And I started taking my multifamily business to the next level. So within 7 months, we were able to have ownership of a little over 40 million and 364 units. We're very excited about that. And as we were chatting before this, we're in the process of creating a very large fund. So we're excited about that.
Cool. So growing up, I mean, was it were people in your family that motivated you to do more, or what do you think the motivation came from?
I love that question. And when it comes to it, uh, not so you have a good why and you have a bad why, and I think that with the family being involved, that helps me push me to the next level. My mother was extremely hardworking. I mean, I remember when I was younger, she would go through law school. She'd stay up 24-hour shifts, go to work the whole day. Father hardworking. Siblings, they're not as hardworking as I am. They make fun of me sometimes because I'm in meetings back to back and I have 3 to 4 podcast interviews today, and they may make fun and say, oh, you can't do it because you're in a meeting. And that's right. But they don't see the work ethic. So I think at a very young age, I was just fascinated, and I knew that money bought everything, and money does buy a different type of lifestyle. And also, the more money you have, the more people you can help. And I knew that I needed to have a large amount of money so I can help a lot of people and do the goals I want to, or accomplish the goals I want to set by giving back. And you can do that by having more money, because more money, you can help more people. So that really drove me. There was a really wealthy neighborhood down the street, I'd say about a mile from the house I lived at in Florida. And I used to ride my bike, and I used to sneak under the fence and just ride my bike through the neighborhood, and said to myself, one day I will be in one of these houses. And I was so fascinated about real estate, and because it's always different. It's not the same thing over and over. We always, no matter how experienced you are in the industry, you will come up with something that's a roadblock, or an obstacle will come to you that's going to be new, because real estate's always evolving and you're always going to run into something that's new. And that's one reason why I love it and have a passion for it. So I say that the lifestyle of, growing up middle class, not wealthy at all, and just having that hard work ethic, knowing that the harder you work and the harder you outperform, the better you're going to be in life. And I'm willing to do whatever it takes. And all my team members who are a part of the company, they call me crazy. They're like, you need to get some sleep. Like, don't stay up all night. Like, get some sleep and rest. But I'm so driven to grow a large company, to help a lot of people, that I don't think about sleeping, and I don't think about eating during the day sometimes.
Now, I know for the viewers that you're located over in Charlotte now, right?
Yes, Charlotte, North Carolina.
I think you mentioned growing up in Florida. Is that correct?
Yeah, I grew up in Fort Lauderdale and Orlando. So those are the 2 cities grew up in. Love it to death. And, there will be a high possibility there may be some relocation down the road with what we have going on in the future. But yeah, we love Charlotte. Been here a little over 13 years, and it's definitely treated us very well.
And what do you think about the Charlotte market in general right now?
Ooh, Charlotte market. I love it. Charlotte market in general is on fire. It's a great market to be in if you can get in. Right now, unfortunately, we had to back out of a deal, which we had an LOI verbally accepted, because the debt changed every single day, in April. And it changed right after we had the seller call and got updated financials, and it ruined the whole business plan, which all the numbers went down the drain. So we had to walk away, unfortunately. But Charlotte's a phenomenal market. Raleigh's a phenomenal market. Anything in the Carolinas right now, with your large major cities like Greenville, South Carolina, Charleston, Raleigh, and Charlotte, those are going to be very hot markets for the future, as there's a lot of job growth happening. And if you have a lot of job growth, that brings a lot of the population growth as well. So we're very pleased being in this market, and very pleased on what's on the horizon for us.
So back at the brokerage, did you guys cover North Carolina and South Carolina, or what was the territory?
Yeah. So when you live in South Carolina and you're right there on the border, you just say Charlotte. So Fort Mill, Rock Hill, South Carolina, where I used to live in Fort Mill, I could run out. And there's some neighborhoods that I've sold houses on where literally the middle of the house is split between North and South Carolina. So when it comes to it, it's right there on the border. So we just say the Charlotte's MSA. So to answer your question, yes, I sold all the upstate of South Carolina. So Fort Mill, Rock Hill, Lancaster, Indian Land, and then all of Charlotte, Northern Charlotte, Gastonia, the whole MSA Charlotte.
Got it. And so what are the roles, just brokers in general, residential and commercial? I mean, how do you see their role play out over the next 10 years? And how do you see that transition from what they're doing today to what they're going to be doing in the future?
That's a great question. When I sold residential real estate, that's when Open Door was coming out, Purple Tree was coming out. We at that time we were sitting in meetings with Zillow, which Zillow for their iBuy program to try to get that contract. So that's when all those large companies were rolling out, and a lot of people are saying, well, they're going to take away the agent business. The agents are going to be taken away. I think that agents always get they always get there's always that discussion with agents on you're paid way too much for what you do. Even if it's residential, you sell a house in 24 hours, or commercial, you sell a great property and you earn a huge commission. I think that will play into a factor. With more technology rolling out, a lot of people are enjoying, in my opinion, this Open Door where you can go ahead and let yourself in, take a look at the house, and then let Open Door know if you want to buy it or not. And then even with the Open Door where you're selling your house, you just take pictures, upload it, and then they send people out to inspect and they say yes or no. I think agents' commission will get cut possibly, but I think they will always have a job. And the reason why is because it's so difficult for a seller and a buyer to be in the same room and negotiate. You're always going to need that middleman, or, not necessarily a real estate agent, but basically a therapist saying, look, seller, your property's not worth what you actually think it's worth. Yeah. And the buyer's showing that, and multiple buyers have shown that. So we need to come down a little bit. So I think the agent's role will always be there. I think the top agents will make a mark, and it may get a lot harder for just newbie agents to hop in and try to gain success very quickly. I think it's going to take some time.
It's kind of, I guess, as you mentioned, that what comes to mind is we're seeing, as a lot of the auction sites over the last 10 years have come to the market. It seems like the cash buyers that don't need their hands held as much are using the platforms where they're direct to a seller and they just put the price on and then transact. But as you're mentioning, the people that are probably more the retail buyers that are making maybe a longer term emotional decision, maybe need that coaching and hand holding, whether or buyer or seller, right? From that broker, and the broker will probably play a bigger or a similar role for those people that are retail buyers, and maybe more the cash buyers are going to be done through online exchange.
No, you are 100% correct on that. I think that, when it comes down to it, those individuals who don't understand how to sell a house or don't understand negotiations or, are afraid to, there's a lot of fear out there, and fear limits everybody. We all have different levels of fear, all the way down to Jeff Bezos, down to, someone who's just working a 9-to-5 job in a cubicle. We all have different levels of fear. And I think that fear will always be there, that people are scared to negotiate, or people are scared to sell their house. They don't know the next steps or what to do or how to talk to people in a negotiation. My fiance will come to me sometimes and she's like, I'm having these problems with these girlfriends. How do I tell them this? Yeah. So I have to
help communicate.
Correct. And a good book I love called Crucial Conversations, and that helps everyone communicate. And I listen to that and read that book over and over on a yearly basis, because it tells you how to communicate in tough situations. And, some people they're not good at it. So that's where that position of a real estate agent will always be there.
Do you think these iBuyers, are going to succeed? I did test Open Door locally. I went and looked at one, used the app, got right in. I was like, this is really nice. No one to bother me. You could roll in, do it.
No one trying to sell you too on it.
They had a couple cameras set up. Not sure if they were fake, but
no,
it was good. It was interesting. They have a check-in, check-out time, right? So they know if something happens. But in reviewing a lot more of their properties online or on Zillow, looking at the sales prices and the differences, it just looks like they're losing money on their transactions. I mean, are they just in a Silicon Valley race to beat out the rest of the world again? So they're willing to take a loss for a while, or what do you think is going to happen with them?
What did Amazon do when they first started?
Yeah.
Amazon, and I watched the documentary. There's a new documentary out on Jeff Bezos. Amazon, for the first 4 to 5 years, did not record a profit.
Yeah.
They wanted to cut all their competition. And the only way to do so is cut all the prices, slash all the prices online. And then from there, create that buy now button, which they patent, where you can just click one, boom, it's already coming here. So that's what they did. So I think the iBuy is still in the beginning stages. It's only been 5 years since it's been rolled out, maybe less.
And now it's going to be cut back.
Correct. It's going to be.
Yeah,
I know. Yeah, right now a lot of them is going to be cut back, and then it's going to be up to those seasoned investors to go make the opportunity. But when it comes to iBuy, I think, I don't see them making money. I don't understand how they make money. You know, they make money on the buy because they charge so many fees, and a lot of these sellers, you know, if your family or my family were put into a situation where we needed to get the house sold. We don't care what price. Okay, yeah, we break even. We just need it sold. We would do it. You know, if it came down to our family's back against the wall where we had to move, or, you know, we may be going into foreclosure and boom, we needed to sell at this price and they offered it, they're going to take it. So when it comes to it, I don't understand, you know, it's a numbers. Obviously, it has to be a numbers game to them. But yeah, I don't see how they're making money.
No, it would be interesting to see how it plays out over the next 10 years. But there's a lot of times when I'm maybe looking at it, if you're looking at single family property and you're on Zillow and I just wish there was a button just to make a freaking offer right to the owner, you know, and not have to go, you know, that's what I envision.
Soon there will be
some kind of cash escrow, some validation of funds that'll let you to place a bid directly to the owner, and the owner can just reply with the price or not and just be able to transact with the local, you know, closing agent.
Soon there will be, because when it comes to it, they're Zillow or whatever company that rolls out with it, they're going to connect with the local, you know, inspectors, local attorneys, you know, to make sure that right when you hit click, okay, here are 4 referrals of inspectors. Here are 4 referrals of, you know, whoever you need. Here are 4 referrals of attorneys. So you can then pick your attorney that they all have. And it's going to be a transaction base. So all these attorneys are going to expect high transaction volume through their offices. But I'm sure they will roll out something like that.
And so one of the things that a lot of people choose multifamily, I'm sure, is for the scalability, right? And being able to acquire many doors, many units under one purchase, right? Compared to single family. So when you got started in the multifamily game, did you go out right away and find that coach, mentor, or what was that path?
Great question. Yeah, that's a great question. So the beginning of it, I was still selling residential real estate. And that's when I hired my coach and mentor. And through the training process, was a couple months, I set goals. And from the people that are closest to me, they know when I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. And you're going to watch me do it. And I told him it was in December of 2018. And I hired him at the beginning of December of 2018. So 1 month towards the end, right after Christmas, I had a call with him. And I said, in 6 months, I'm done selling real estate. He says, are you serious? And I said, in 6 months, I will be done selling real estate. He says, okay, I'll hold you to it. January, about middle to the end of January 2019, I called him up. I said, I'm done. He says, it's only been a month. I said, well, the way I see it is my back's against the wall now, so I have to make it work. I don't have any other options. And that's what I try to do all the time. No matter the level of growth we have here, is I'm always going to try to ensure that we're well positioned to always have that hunger and that determination to keep on growing. Because a lot of people will reach that certain level of success or reach that certain level of the goals or hit their goals that they want to hit. But after that, it's like, okay, I accomplished something. I don't need to do anything else. So if you can create that mindset to always be driven, always, you know, set huge goals, and once you accomplish that, then now set even bigger goals, you'll grow a huge company. So that's what I did, and ever since then, been full time into multifamily real estate investing and never looked back.
So the last year and a half, right? That since you moved on, what have you been up to?
Yeah.
What have you been doing for the year and a half?
Yeah, so real quick, within 7 months of founding QC Capital, we acquired a little over 40 million, 364 units that we have ownership of, and really through that whole time is building strong relationships. As you know, as if anyone listens to my or on my social media or my podcast, we always talk about building very strong relationships. So not only that, but creating the right mindset for success. So throughout those times, building strong relationships, implementing the correct systems. Since then, we have 2 underwriters that are on our team. We have 1 acquisition person and 1 internship. On Monday, we are looking to hire a maintenance a contractor / maintenance individual who has a lot of experience in the multifamily industry at a very large company, or not necessarily competitors just yet, because I'm a small fish in their bowl, but soon will be competitors, but bringing him on would be very beneficial. So we'll see how that interview and that conversation goes. But massive growth with the company has came about in the last, I'd say, 8 months.
So how does if someone's getting started, how do they justify the cost of a coach and mentor, and how do they make that best decision, who to pick and how much they'd be willing to spend, and what kind of outcome they're looking to get out of that?
I'm willing to spend as much money as I have for my education. And when it comes to individuals, it comes down to themselves. It comes down to them understanding where they want to be. Before you even pick a coach, you need to find out, what's my goals? Where do I want to be? Do I want to make 10,000 a month, or do I want to make $1 million a month? Yeah. Those are two different goals, and you're going to need 2 different type of coaches for that. So I aligned my coach, and when I went through that interviewing process, I looked at a lot of coaches. My number 1 big thing was I wanted to be one-on-one with the coach. It was very important to me where I can be one-on-one with them. Number 2 is that I wanted to ensure that coach had the same goals in mind that I did, meaning that I had huge goals, and I want to make sure that my coach had huge goals as well, because now we're on the same journey together. Now we're going to grow together as a team, and we'll reach it together quicker than having separate goals. So I find that being very important. Justifying the price, 1, it's a business expense, so you can write it off on your taxes. Number 2, it's educational. What you are going to learn is what you're going to take in your mind, and I'm a big believer about mindset positivity. Yeah. What you take in from the knowledge is going to last you a lifetime. Even if you use the coach for a year and not decide not to renew, it's going to last you a lifetime where you can then take on for generations and grow a large company. So I see it extremely valuable. Those are the key points on why I hired my coach and what I would look for while bringing on another coach as well. I think you can have multiple coaches depending on where you want to take the company or take your goals. I think it's very important to have multiple eyes and take a look at the situation. So that's my key point when it comes to coaching.
Now, when you chose your coach, did you look at his whole background and his experience, and then match that up based on what his experience is where you want to go, and what asset he was buying to make sure that it was the right fit?
Oh, very much so. I don't want a coach who's a wholesaler. That's irrelevant. What's a wholesaling coach going to tell me about over 100-unit apartment complexes? Now when we're in the stage of we're in the process of creating a fund, now I am seeking a mentor / coach who has created large successful funds before. So now I'm on the mission to seek out that. Will I keep the previous? Oh yeah, I'll keep him for as long as I can, because it's always good to look back and always good to have that conversation and to spark up, because they may bring up stuff to help your business still grow. But I will not have a wholesale coach. So I would say, do your due diligence on them. When you're talking to them on the phone, they're interviewing you, but you are also interviewing them, because depending on who it is, some come at a very high price, and some don't. Some are small monthly. It just all depends. But do your research, talk to a handful of them, and then to even go above and beyond, say, hey, can you refer me 6 people that you know that you've coached? Probably they're always going to send the best, as everyone does in any type of reference way, who speaks highly of them. But call those 6 people and then ask those 6 people, hey, who do you know? And go down the line. I always say go 6, 3, 3. So 6 references. After you get those 6 references, get 3 people that those references have referenced, and then 3 people that they reference if you can, and then make your decision.
All right. So you got a coach, mentor lined up.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that may be a little bit easy, right? You just stroke a check if you got the cash. Now finding the deals and getting started is the harder part. So where do we go after we have the coach? What do we do?
Yeah, I would say, what we did is I leveraged my background and experience. And as an entrepreneur, as a business owner growing up, you're doing everything yourself. I mean, you're doing the marketing to writing the newsletters to talking to everybody. I messaged someone on Facebook last week, and she said, is this your VA? And I said, no, I don't have a VA. I said, this is actually me. And they're like, well, how are you on? You are always on point, with everything, and you're watching it very quickly. So when it comes to it, that's what happens. And when you start to grow, you then start to leverage. So I leveraged at the very beginning my expertise of the real estate industry on the brokerage side. So I was able to build strong relationships with the brokers by, letting them know, look, I used to be a broker. I understand the brokerage side of things. And that really opened it up big time. So I built strong relationships with them. I didn't go direct to the sellers. I think when you're dealing with over 100 plus units, you should just build strong relationships with the brokers. It's going to be very hard to do it direct with the sellers. So we went that route. And I was actually, our first deal, I was touring a 91 unit that was on market. And my main focus was thinking big at the time, and it always is. So I was thinking, okay, well, I only focus 100 plus units. Yep. So 91 units, I look adjacent to the property. I see an additional 44. So I said, would that seller want to sell? And we can combine it, make it 135. I lost out in best and final on the 91. A week later, I called the broker back, said, hey, is that 44 still available? They said, yes. I said, let's try to get it. And we got it. And then the ball started rolling from there. After that, we were able to acquire 2 more assets, totaling 364 units, and very excited about our growth this year.
So how does someone wine and dine and meet all the brokers, though? I mean, where do they find the list?
Yeah, you can find a list on LoopNet if you want. LoopNet has a list of all your brokers. You can go to, my biggest thing is look who's doing business in the area. And here in the Carolinas, you have really 3 to 4 large major companies. You have Capstone Partners or Capstone. You have Cushman. You have Newmark Knight Frank. You have CBRE, JLL. They're decent. Marcus and Millichap. They're okay for the smaller units. But if you really want good quality units, those are the 4 people. And it took time for me to find it, but I was doing research on LoopNet, and a lot of them don't post good deals on LoopNet. So
they don't post them online at all, right?
No. So it's going to these networking events and listening. Oh, who are you talking to? Oh, I've never heard of that broker. Who's he with? Cushman. Okay. Go to Cushman's website. Go to who covers the Charlotte area. Start friending them, building relationships with them. Take them out to lunch. Look, we are new, but this is what we have. This is our goals, and we know we'll achieve them. And, we're in this for the long term. And I think that that's very beneficial, and it speaks volume with just building relationships. When I go out to lunch with the brokers, I don't talk real estate much. I let them bring it up. And that's the same way with potential investors, is I build strong relationships with them.
And how did, once you build those broker relationships and you have to go, you start getting deal flow in your inbox. Oh, yeah. Now you have the underwriting aspect, right? And that that's the make or break. I mean, if you don't buy right, you don't make any money, right?
That is right. And when it came to that, like I said at the beginning of any entrepreneur or a small business owner or business owner in general, you're doing it all yourself. So I trained myself how to underwrite. I trained myself what to look for. I called other underwriters. I spoke to lenders and, trained myself from best people I could that surrounded me, and I was able to get them to surround me to understand underwriting. And then I had a individual who reached out to me and found me, who we connected, very, very well. And he is an expert in underwriting. He currently used to, or is leaving another company, but a large billion-dollar company that they have assets under management, which is definitely brings a ton of value to us, and he knows it all when it comes to it. So that that weight lifted off my shoulder. That's and I was good. Like, whew, okay, now let's just focus on finding deals and building relationships with investors. And then once I did that, I found an acquisition specialist who used to work for Marcus & Millichap, and I said, great. You know multifamily, you specialized it. Now I can slowly let this go to you. Now my one goal is to market, to add value to everybody and build relationships.
So now you've learned up front how to do the initial underwriting yourself, and now have that outsourced not outsourced, but you've delegated.
I leveraged it. Yeah, I leveraged it. And I realized that I was thinking this a couple months ago, is that throughout school and college, that's what I did. I wasn't good at writing essays. I wasn't good at taking tests. So I paid people to do it. Now they tell you that's cheating during school, but now I see it that I was leveraging. And that's what you do in the real life. Whatever you're not good at, you leverage to someone who's good at. So I leverage underwriting to one great person who's phenomenal. And then he referred me to another underwriter who wanted to come on board. And after multiple phone calls and Zoom calls with him, I brought him on board. So now we have two underwriters, one acquisition, and one intern.
What was, we did have a question there we kind of missed over, but what was one of the big aha moments that you gained from working with Joe Fairless?
Ooh, what is an aha moment? I mean, he's definitely he's a phenomenal coach. If I'm sure a lot of people listen to his podcast, YouTube videos, he's phenomenal. He brings a wealth of knowledge. And it was, it's everything. I'll run by him a situation that's going on, or, just what I'm doing in the business, and when I do that, he will come back, and it's this mind blowing on, the way and the different angles he sees situations. And also, the biggest thing too is when you hire a coach, you can also leverage their experience. Not only that, you can also leverage their connections. So when you tell people, yes, I'm in his private program, or I work very closely with him, he's a direct advisor to the company. They like that, someone who's reputable in the multifamily space. And if you can get a good coach that way and use his name, it's definitely beneficial and will help you grow. But when it comes to it, he's always, making me think bigger and making me think outside the box, which is extremely beneficial, not only for the company, but for me in my personal life.
So the coach can also be put on like the LOI or the deck as maybe advisory and give and help you in trying to acquire that deal?
Correct. Yes. If they're a direct advisor to the company, which Joe's a direct advisor to our company, which we are able to leverage that and put him on those.
Yeah. So some people might not understand all the benefit that they might get. I mean, I'm sure the coaches all range, but let's just say in the $20,000 to $50,000 a year range. I think viewers or those getting started need to have a full understanding of, just the complete value they get from that, and that their leverage or the multiple they're going to make on that investment should be at least 10, 20 times over the year or two. You know what I mean?
I 100% agree. Less than that, because they're going to limit your mistakes. The one thing is that when you hire a coach or a mentor, don't think they're going to do it all for you. You got to put in the work. You got to get out there, do it yourself. They're just going to limit it, and they're going to help you through the process, but they're not going to do it for you. And I didn't even ask the price at the time, and I know he's went up substantially. I didn't even ask the price. I said, "How much is it?" Okay, boom, signed it, and then sent it over. So, cool. When it comes to it, it's a benefit to you and your knowledge. You have to do it if that's what you want to do to take your business to the next level.
Now, going into the LOI stage and making an actual offer on a deal, What are some things that you look to put on your LOI that are very important?
Yeah, during this time, it's very important to, have some clauses in there for COVID-19. It's
Yeah.
extremely important to do that. But when it comes to it, just main price, how our due diligence is going to be operated, time frame of everything, what we're going to do during due diligence, how we want to access the property. Those are those key points that we have on there.
And do you think the hard money deposits are going to fade for a while based on the COVID and everything and due diligence periods, or do you think?
Oh,
that's
for
still
sure.
gonna...
Yeah, no, for sure. I think hard money in the next, 5 to 6 months, or it's definitely going. I mean, if you put it down, it's shocking. But yeah, I think from everyone I've heard, even the large operators, that no one's putting hard money down.
Cool. And now that so when you're trying to find a property management company, what are those screening questions that you used to find the right one for your deal?
Yeah, that's very important. I always like referrals. So I will call the brokers, because the brokers are in the industry of, what's your top 5 property management companies? And they give it to you. And then when you talk to those property management companies, there's a series of questions that we ask them. What type of assets do you manage? Where are your assets located? Do you own any assets? Do you JV? Do you invest back into the assets? Those are some key points that we like to ask when it comes to property managers. And also, once we wrap up the call, is okay, do you have any references you can send us of other owners where we can see how their experience was, and really get a good grasp on, from an owner point of view, how well they like the property management company.
And are you looking for a property manager that owns units or doesn't own units, or is there any...
It depends. It's we don't want any competition. So if it's, for example, a Charlotte property manager and they own assets right down the street, we really don't want competition, because, they're going to try to make their assets rent out. So we definitely don't like that. But it just all depends on the situation, the scenario of the asset, and what our business plan is. So that's one reason why I love real estate in general, is that it's always different. You never know.
So what are some of the biggest lessons you learned from property management since over the last year?
No one's gonna manage your property better than you. I definitely know that. And when it comes to property managers, you got to stay on top of them. You got to ensure the work is being done. You got to know that if the property manager has an in-house maintenance team, or if they third party it, or if they own another company, which that's who they refer all the maintenance to. You definitely have to review. I'm a big stickler about expenses. I do not like to waste money or spend money unnecessarily. I like to know where the money's going, and that it actually improved the property or did something good. So really cracking down to ensure that you're not being price gouged. They're not coming in and saying, well, a market turn's going to be $7,000. To ensure that you're getting the best deal possible on your market turns or on renovations when it comes to it.
Have you had to fire anybody yet?
Yes.
And how was that process or transition?
It's a long transition. I think depending on the communication and relationship that you have with the property manager, it's very important when it comes to it, because some property managers, once you give that notice, they'll just ghost you. Some will really care about their reputation and understand it, and then make a smooth transition over. So it just all depends.
So now when it comes to capital and the equity for the deals that you're acquiring, how are you going about raising that? Are you raising that from the public? Do you guys have partners you work with, or how are you guys set up?
Yeah, great question. So I won't touch on it as much and go into depth. Unfortunately, I can't. But we raise it from very, very close friends that we've built very strong relationships with and very extensive relationships with throughout the past years of me being in the industry, and the reputation and the thought leadership program that we're growing. So that's how we are able to raise capital to acquire assets.
Cool. As we're getting close to wrapping up here, what what other information can you give to the viewers here on just how they could, get started in the multifamily, how they could work with you?
I would say go ahead and hit the subscribe and notification button to your videos. That's a huge way to start gaining the knowledge. You need to gain knowledge on what's going on in the multifamily industry. If that's the real estate sector you want to go down, if you want to do wholesaling, fix and flip, you name it, you need to find out who's an expert, who's pouring out great content, and focus on that. Listen to it on a daily basis. I listen to around 2 to 3 books a week. I listen to, and then I read about, now I'm reading about a book a week and a half. On top of all that, I have YouTube playing about real estate sectors that we're focused on, fund managers, and then I'm also doing a ton of research on funds and fund managers. So it's extremely important to soak up as much knowledge as possible as you can to grow a huge business, to reach the goals you want to attain.
All right. And if people want to reach you, what is the best way? I mean, we have a couple down below.
Yeah. That's the best way. My Instagram's Chris_Salerno. You can email me directly if you'd like, Chris at QC Capital Group, or we do have a private Facebook group, which is called the Mindful Multifamily Network, where you can network alongside myself, Joe, and other real estate investors.
Dude, that sounds great. I appreciate coming on today, and we look forward to talking to you at a future date.
Joe, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
All right, bye.